It's the weekend, so I don't want to be too serious, and many of you might be supporting the march that's going on in London. If you want details, it'll be on Paul Thorpe's Twitter or Tommy Robinson's pages, I'm sure. I don't know what the details are, but I know there's something going on today. But I had to just highlight this because it just tickled me. So I've obviously written something appropriate. This is Rory Stewart. Remember him? Come Sleep With Me, when he slept at people's houses. Hang on. Are you ready?
Hi, are you happy to have a quick film? Good to see you. I'm Rory.
Nilo.
Nice to see you. Good to see you. I'm Rory.
Screw, bro.
Good to see you. Very nice to meet you.
Seb. Nice to
I'm
meet
Rory.
you.
Good to see you. Do you all live around here?
We do indeed, yeah, sort of.
Have you always lived around here?
We're from Ireland, actually.
You're originally from Ireland?
Dublin, Ireland, yeah.
Dublin?
Yep.
And when did you move here? A few years ago. Hi there. I'm Rory. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Good luck.
Thank you, saying hello. Thank you. Thank you.
Nice. That's so cool.
So you're all from Ireland? You all grew up in Dublin? Great. Fantastic. And how long have you been here for?
What is this for?
I'm filming something. I'm a politician. I'm standing to be Prime Minister, so I'm going around meeting people.
Okay. Sweet.
So I want to see what people are up to.
I don't fuck with politics, man.
You don't like politics?
Politics. Nice to meet you, sir.
Very nice.
Give us a minute. Hi, I'm Rory. I'm standing to be Prime Minister. You can't stand to be Prime Minister. Anyway, to lighten the load, I put the video up and I put the decision by Mummy to allow Rory Stewart into long pants seems a little premature. It's clearly gone to his head as he announced to the cast of Riverdance that he's canvassing to be Prime Minister. Thankfully, Rory has since found an equally delusional kindred spirit and does a podcast with Alistair Campbell. It's not exactly the dizzy heights of Prime Minister, but it does have a P in it. Can you believe that even took place? Where are you from, Ireland? Oh yeah, the Dubliners. It's unbelievable we've had to put up with from our political class. Dave keeps calling me Joe 90 and brains with my new glasses. Who's cooking for you? You should watch your step boy there. That's just how low the bar's been in the past, isn't it? But the good news is, as far as Rory Stewart is concerned, JD Vance, I believe he's the Vice President, isn't he? JD Vance has accused Rory Stewart of having a low IQ after the podcaster criticised the US Vice President's interpretation of Christian values. It's in the Times. Yeah, the Vice President. And what does it say Rory is now? Oh, that's right, a podcaster. Like me, no more important than me, Rory, despite the fact you're connected in all the right places for all the wrong things. And have you watched that little short that I've put up with Ronald Reagan? I mean, I never realised that he was so good at his job as president, and what he says about inflation, that basically the government can choose to tax you or borrow money or just keep printing money. Have you watched that? It's just a short. It's only on about 1 minute, 30 seconds, something like that. It's so insightful. And, you know, the funny thing is the three presidents that really were working for the people or are working for the people was JFK and Reagan and, of course, Trump. And all three have had assassination attempts. Makes you wonder who the bad guys are, doesn't it? And you know things are going to get better when even the BBC are pulling up Rachel from accounts on what she's said previously. This is the BBC. This is priceless. Apparently aviation's changed. Who knew?
Just a few years ago, you yourself fought against an expansion of Leeds Bradford Airport, citing air and noise pollution reasons.
So that was in the pandemic when people weren't really flying. A lot has changed since then, including how aeroplanes fly and including sustainable aviation fuel.
Including how aeroplanes...
It looks like somebody
including how aeroplanes fly. Really? Please tell me how they're flying any differently. And that was different because that was in the pandemic. Oh, so the extension at Leeds Bradford was only pertaining to the pandemic, was it? You didn't ever see the pandemic being over and thinking we need to plan ahead. Is accuser of NIMBYism not in my backyard, she'll go for it with Heathrow, but not at Leeds Bradford. But planes fly differently now. And you know that because Rachel Nostradamus Reeves has given us more of a piercing insight. I mean, look, if there's one thing you ought to be doing while this show is going on, it's enjoying the absolute tawdry that's going on with our politicians. We know the screwballs, we know the front bench isn't up to it, we know that there is literally an employment fest that couldn't match anything else because there's nothing to choose from. There's nobody any good. They can't better. They're the best of the best. You've got David Lammy, who's managed to spend £1 million on private air travel since he's come in, July? That's how much he spent getting his lord ass around the world, talking more bollocks about whatever it is he's talking about. These people haven't got the common sense not even to tweet insults about other world leaders. It's just a joke. But I look at it like this, and the reason, people say, you're so upbeat, blah, blah, blah. I look at it like this. In the 70s, I lived in a drafty, terraced house. The bin strikes were on, the bread strikes were on, we had power cuts. With no money in our house, I had cardboard in the bottom of my shoes sometimes to go to school while my mother saved up for another pair because, God forbid, I wore fruit soles a bit too quick after repeated soling and healing. We had normal everyday food, we didn't eat out. You didn't go out for meals then. We didn't have very much at all. And that was a miserable time of life. I was loved by my family and I loved my family back. But nevertheless, for what I wanted out of life, I didn't get very much. Everything relied on public transport. And unfortunately, I didn't have a very good social life. I wasn't pushed to do well at school. It was pretty grim. So if I can get through that, I can get through this. And what we should be looking at is, where do I sit now? Am I living in a better house than my parents? Am I living a better life than my parents? Am I able to do things my parents couldn't do? Even small things, and it's the small stuff we have to remember. People have beautiful, lovely scented candles and lots of ornaments at Christmas. We didn't live like that. We had a Christmas tree that looked anorexic. It was like silver, horrible. People are living really well, and we're missing the good things that we've built up for ourselves. That's what worries me, because we're concentrating on the miserable aspect of politics, and that's why I like Reform so much. If you go to a Reform conference, I don't go, but I watch them. You don't see Lee Anderson miserable. All right, he's got an MP, he's got an MP salary coming in, but he has worked down a pit. He does understand what it's like to put food on the table. And there's a buzz about Reform. There's a positivity, like with President Trump, that they can bring that positivity to the country. She can't, Rachel Reeves. She's a dope on a rope. And they've no idea how to make people feel enthusiastic about the country. No amount of business meetings with businessmen is going to make this bunch of comedians attract foreign investment. They'll only attract people who want to bleed the country dry. That's why they like the EU. So what I'm saying is, look back to your life as a kid or whatever and tell me if you're living a better life than you. If you're not, then that's unfortunate. There's not a lot I can do about that. But most people who have the time to watch me on the internet and recognise the problems of the country should also recognise that flick back a few years and your own life was probably worse than it is now. And we got through it. We're fighting back. They're not getting their own way. They're stalled at every interval. They jump the gun and they're paying for it. And they're paying for it because you've only got to look at how America voted. You're not telling me that some of those movie stars couldn't see it coming and voted for Trump anyway, despite what they're supposed to say. So this is why I don't get down about it, because we're sat at an interval in time where we've got an opportunity to do something about it. And the most important thing you can do is talk to your friends and your family and your neighbours. Not about batshit stuff, chemtrails, adrenochrome. Don't scare them to bloody death. Talk sensible about how Trump's turning America around. That's the best you can do. And to help people understand politics a bit more, because, you shut out from this. They don't want you to understand. They don't want you to have a fair idea of what's going on. They want you to think, oh, I don't understand politics, and keep out of it. So I've put this up and I've pinned it to my page this morning. American politics is different to the UK. They get a president. We get a prime minister who cannot make executive decisions. Any legislation here in the UK has to be passed through Parliament and the House of Lords. A Prime Minister cannot just sign off on something. You are aware of the woke stance of much of the Parliament, and that's what they have to get passed. I see comments like Rupert for PM and Ben for PM and David for PM. It's childish. The smaller parties who will not park their enormous egos usually have an outspoken frontman that you like. After that, what is there? I'm serious. After the frontman that you like, what is there? Have you thought who they would have as the 22 cabinet members? Because that's what we've got now. Do your favoured parties have 22 high calibre people who could be the Minister for Defence, the Home Office, the Foreign Office and all the rest of them? The answer's no. Their values are similar to Reform. They usually only have a frontman, which is why it's not going to work. The frontman should seek to join Reform and stand under that banner, benefiting from all the growing publicity and the media coverage that Reform get. If you take this post as an insult, you just haven't digested what I'm trying to tell you. There is only one option to create any degree of betterment to what we have, and that is Reform. They have a seasoned and very diplomatic leader who gets huge amounts of teletime and 4 other people already in office. They're clearly vetting people rigorously for candidates, more rigorously than they've ever done before. And there's a huge amount of voters needed to make that change. And they're not coming from the right. They're coming from the apathetic middle ground who didn't vote and disappointed Labour voters, who are not even going to support a party that even looks remotely right-wing. They need a big win. Once they're in power, they need to be able to unravel unsuitable legislation. They're already having an impact in back Cabinet Office debates about farming, housing, immigration, DEFRA, the WHO and many other topics, as well as dealing with the constituency work. True Conservatives with the Tory party, who have been battered down by pro-EU consensus and woke ideology via the Civil Service, they need a home. And I'm more than happy to see them working under a Reform banner. That said, if I saw someone like Jeremy Hunt muzzle in, I'd hope Nigel would reject him, as he is not Conservative and pro-China, and we know how President Trump sees that. Trump is in power and he will create an excellent conduit for Reform to practice what they preach. They won't be perfect, but they will be much, much better than what we've got. More like Thatcher style with a modern day twist. Trump is doing the heavy lifting here, right now. The media will shield his success. So the best thing you can do is to chat to your friends and neighbours and family. Not about chemtrails, not about adrenochrome, the Epstein Island. Chat about useful stuff that they can grasp. Illegals being sent packing, because this is what's happening in America. Jobs being created, overseas spending brought to a halt. America first, zero. The race to that has stopped. The WHO is now left. The Paris Accord cancelled. Remind them that China is allowed to grow their use of coal for one reason only, because they get foreign aid. That's a massive reason that you can use to tell people why we ought to be fighting back. There's not enough time to grow anything else. Now that post was devoid of any emotion. It's not meant to be rude. It's meant to be common sense. Because whilst America is in you'll see great changes, and a lot of countries will have to buckle because they'll want to trade with America. We will. And we've only got to stomach Starmer and whoever else they're replacing with for a short period in time. They're not going to get a second term. They're just not going to get in because they've betrayed absolutely everybody. And whatever they've done, whatever laws they project upon us can be changed. It makes a lot of paperwork and it's a lot of stuff to contend with, but nevertheless it can be done. And what we need is a willingness to do it. Now, I've already spoken to people at Reform. There's no way people like Jeremy Hunt would get in. You know, the Tories that may come across. They've even refused Priti Patel, for goodness sake. So I very much doubt, you know, I'm not saying she's asked to go, I'm saying they wouldn't have her because of her stance on various things like the immigration failure. So, you know, they're not just going to take anybody on. They're going to try and make sure they get a good balance. And it's the only thing we've got going. And as I say, the thing you've got to look at, once you get past the front man that you like what he's saying, it appeals to you, they've got to get whatever they're saying past a parliament that doesn't agree with them. So you need someone in there with a whacking big majority, and there's only one place you can go, and that's Reform.